Hey everybody. Today I'd like to talk about something that's important to me, that affects me a lot, which is perfectionism. And it's especially important in this field of intactivism, which is the activism geared towards keeping all babies intact, not allowing any babies to have their genitals cut unnecessarily, which I would argue virtually all genital cutting, male, female, and intersex genital cutting, is unnecessary and harmful. And the problem is, a lot of times when I try to, or when I want to do something about that, I feel like I don't have the credentials. I feel like I'm not ready. And because of that, I just don't act. And I think this is a problem for a lot of intactivists, because a lot of the people in this movement didn't come to it because they wanted to find a movement, because they wanted to think about genital mutilation all day. It's just not something people generally move towards on purpose. Generally, it's something they're forced into to confront in one way or another, and then they can't escape it. They can't stop once they've started, because it's just something that's so important. And so a lot of the people who are in the movement don't really have all of the skills that are actually necessary to do it. When I started doing the Missing Piece podcast for Foragin, I had never done a podcast before. I had done a few interviews for an internship I did, like 5 interviews that were maybe half an hour each. That's it. That's all I'd ever done. And I said, I made it sound really good and tried to talk myself up, and ultimately I don't think there were any other applicants for the Missing Piece podcast, and that's why I got it, because there just aren't enough people in this movement, because people don't want to be in the movement. It's a hard thing to do. It's painful to confront this issue, and a lot of the people who know about it, which is still a relatively small number, just aren't well equipped to deal with it. And so it's also it makes it even harder when you hold yourself to a really high standard, and you say everything you have to do has to be perfect, and has to be just right. Even just today, when I was making this video, I first started thinking about a video I wanted to do, and I had a good idea, and I sat down and I was thinking about it. I kept thinking and trying to come up with all of the stuff that I wanted to say, and eventually I just sort of gave up on that, because I couldn't get the thoughts straight in my head to say what I wanted to say. And then I had another idea, and I thought I could talk about that, and then that one just didn't. I couldn't cognize it. I couldn't figure it out exactly and figure out what the main idea was, and my mind went on tangents. And it's like I kept on wanting to make it perfect, and the more I tried to make it perfect in my mind, it started to fall apart. And with the first podcast, practically the whole thing was scripted. I knew pretty much everything I was going to say, word for word, and had planned it out so meticulously that it took over 100 hours to actually, between that and all the technical stuff and just not knowing anything about any aspect of it, it took me an unbelievable amount of time to do that. And a big part of that was the perfectionism of it, wanting to do it just right. And I'm not saying that quality isn't important. It is, and it's great to spend a lot of time on say a first episode of a podcast or something that you want to be really good. But the problem comes when that becomes too much of an emphasis, and we're not focusing enough on just doing what we do. When I make these videos every day, I don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but I know that saying something is better than not saying anything at all, and just letting my voice come out, letting the words find themselves. And it's not going to be perfect every time. It's not always going to be great. Yesterday I was exhausted and I knew I just had to do it and just make it happen, even though it wasn't great, because I know having that momentum and just doing it, just every day, just doing it. I've been here at Harvard postering all the walls, and most of the places I've tried to find places to put posters, I couldn't find any, and I just have no idea what I'm doing. I've never really done anything like this before, and yeah, you don't let not knowing what you're doing stop you from doing it anyways. Just do your best. Especially when it comes to Intactivism, just do whatever you can. Do your best, Like I said in an earlier video, take a step back and really think, what's the most effective way I can do this? Don't just run out in the streets and start yelling at people, because that'll, make more people sometimes shut down and not want to listen than if you really figure out how to have a real conversation with someone, which requires listening, which requires speaking calmly and trying to figure out what their sticking points are. Why are they for circumcision, or why are they neutral in it? What are their thoughts? What's their history on it? What is their understanding of it? And you got to listen to them. You got to be able to engage and slow down, and and that applies as a metaphor to all aspects of Intactivism. You got to really think, what's the most effective way, what's the best way to do whatever you're doing. And that's a question you have to ask yourself. How can I be more effective? How can I do something different that will make it so that more babies are saved from having their genitals altered? So yeah, I think the key takeaway today is just start doing something, and do the best that you can do, and however you can kind of always try to do a better job, and look at what you're doing and do a better job, but don't overanalyze what you're doing, or don't try so hard to do it perfect that you're not doing something. Because the best thing you can do is always just to go out and do something, do anything, and then learn from it. Learn from your mistakes. Learn what worked. I didn't do a perfect job postering things today, but I learned a lot. I figured out where different places to do stuff in Harvard are, and I know in the next 9 days that I'll be doing this, I'll be better, because today I made a lot of mistakes and learned from them. And yeah, so that's a lot of stuff. I know it kind of covers some different topics, and also just how important it is to do stuff that you're not comfortable doing. You may think, well, I don't know how to make posters, I don't know how to protest, I don't know how to post or something. But just be willing to try. Just be willing to try creating a podcast or making videos like this. I have no idea what I'm doing when I started. I've never done this before. But I figured it out. I've watched other people who do similar things to all these things and learn from them. Interact with them, ask them questions, and reach out to them, because they're all real people and they all want to help, and they all want to do anything they can, usually, to work together to really to end circumcision once and for all. So that's my video for today, guys. Thanks so much for listening, as always, and you can always reach out to me. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you listening. And I appreciate all the work that I know you do internally on yourself to work through these emotions and help heal yourself, and then eventually, hopefully, to heal the world and figure out how we can really create an understanding around how much harm circumcision actually does to so many people. Thanks again. Talk to you all tomorrow.